Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ange if you haven't met me before, and today I thought that I would be giving you guys an update on all the plants that I'm absolutely loving at the moment. So kind of like a houseplant spotlight video, because I feel like I have not given you guys an update about my plants in a really long time. And it is summertime here in Australia, so I am getting a really good amount of growth. It is booming. However, I will say there are a lot of pests at the moment that I'm having to deal with. I'm dealing with thrips, I'm dealing with spider mites, I'm dealing with mealybugs, and the list goes on. For me personally, I feel like the pest situation gets really bad in the summertime, so let's hope I can get on top of that soon. I've definitely got to go out and get some more pest treatment. But anyway, before I waffle on, that is not the purpose of today's video. Today's video is talking about all the beautiful plants. If you like this content, then definitely hit the thumbs up and don't forget to hit subscribe, and let's get on to the first plant. Alright, so the first plant that I'm going to be talking about today is the absolutely stunning Philodendron Silver Cloud, and I can't even pick up the leaf, but that is what it looks like. It is absolutely gorgeous. I will give you guys a little bit of a close-up. It has this insanely pillowy leaf with these silver markings on it, and they just look so soft. Like, I just want to put my head on it. It is actually getting quite large, so you can see it is about the size of my face now. I got this one when it was really small, and I will say that I've had quite a roller coaster with this plant. It has definitely not been the easiest plant that I've ever owned. I got this plant as a really small plant. Like, the leaves were probably like, I don't know, like this big, really quite small. It did get spider mites a million times. It died back to like a stump, but I did not give up. I did not give up, and I have this beautiful plant now. I mean, barring this leaf here, I will say that it has had some spider mite issues. It's a bit dusty at the moment, but I think I have killed all the spider mites. I think I have. So I have had a bit of a problem with that, but I think I got it early enough because this is the newest leaf that it just kind of unfurled, I would say, this week, and it doesn't really look like it has spider mite damage to it. It's looking pretty good, but you can see here the backs of these leaves. You can tell that it has had some spider mite damage. So I think I'm getting on top of it. I've got to treat it again maybe this week sometime just to make sure all those buggos are dead. But I'm absolutely in love with this plant. I will say that it's not the quickest grower that I have ever seen, but it's also not the slowest grower. I find that it's definitely putting out more leaves now that it is a bit more established. Like, when it was quite small, it was very slow. I am keeping it in this window that is right next to me here. That is, I believe, a north-facing window, so we get some really beautiful light throughout the afternoon, but it's not too strong, and I think that it's really loving it. I have a lot of my plants in this window, and it is absolutely stunning. So I really just had to give a spotlight to this beautiful leaf, and to be honest, now I've been seeing them going for quite a decent price, like $50 to $100. I've been seeing them sold for online, which is such a good deal. I really think that the houseplant prices are going down, which it's such a good thing. That means that we can get so many more pretty plants, and they're not going to be super expensive. So definitely, if you haven't got a silver cloud yet, pick one up. Alright, so the next plant on my list is another philodendron, and it actually lives in the same window that the previous plant lived in, and this is the absolutely beautiful Philodendron Mammae. I know what you're thinking. It probably looks pretty similar to the silver cloud, and yes, I do think it does look pretty similar in my opinion, but the leaf shape I think is a lot different. This one is a lot more pointed, and I think a little bit less pillowy. My cat is just jumping all over my plants right now and giving me some anxiety, so please stop. But I'll actually put the plants side by side so you can see. Alright, I'm just gonna pop them like this so you can properly see the difference. So the one in this hand is the Philodendron Mammae, and the one in this hand is the Philodendron Silver Cloud, and they look quite similar, but they are different. So I definitely wanted to include this guy in my video. For me personally, I do think that this one is a little bit of a quicker grower, and there are actually 3 different growth points that are in the soil here. I have got to think of a good way to like trellis this up or let it like run over, because I think it is like a running philodendron across the ground, but at the moment it's just kind of like hanging out on this pot. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's still growing really, really nicely. So I did actually get this one from Foliage Freak. This whole larger section is basically what I purchased from them. And then there was like a section of stem that had come off the mother plant, and it had roots and things like that, but no leaves. It was just like this old piece of stem. So I actually popped that in my propagation box to see if it would create some new leaves from the nodes, and it did. So that is where we have this little, just gonna focus, this little growth point here, and then this little growth point here. So it's basically like 3 plants in this pot, 2 little babies. I don't know if I'm going to separate them or just keep them together, because I do really like a bushy, full looking plant, and I think when these leaves get bigger, it's gonna look really nice and majestic. Again, this one has suffered from spider mites. So the whole window situation next to me had a bit of a spider mite infestation, so there is a little bit of remnants of spider mite damage. Ooh, I think I do still see some spider mites on the back of this leaf. So let's see if we can see that. So there is like a little bit of webbing around the little areas here, and then this area has a lot of spider mite damage. So I think after this video I will be treating it. So if you are having a pest infestation, don't worry, you're not alone. It is something that we just have to deal with being plant parents. So I'm going to manually take those spider mites off and then give them a good spray down. But it is still growing really, really nicely. I'm absolutely loving this foliage. I'm just a bit of a sucker for silver on leaves, or like grayish. I just think it's so unique, it's so stunning, and this is definitely one of my favorites at the moment. The next plant on my list is another philodendron. Oh my gosh, and the next plant I'm going to show you is a philodendron too, so I may as well just be like, this is my philodendron spotlight hour. I'm sorry, I'm just loving them a lot at the moment. I was going through a massive like Hoya kick, I would say like a year ago. Right now I'm loving the philodendrons because they're so fast growing and they're just pretty easy to take care of, so I'm absolutely loving it. So this one here is my Philodendron Mexicanum. I believe that is how you pronounce it. And I am absolutely loving just how crazy these aerial roots are getting. It absolutely looks like jungle-esque, and I'm all about that vibe. This one, I will say, is such an easy grower. Like honestly, I've had no problems with it. It just grows and grows. It used to live in my Mars Hydro Grow tent when it was a lot smaller, but it kind of outgrew that. So now it is just living in my living room in just some medium light. And what I love about these leaves is they have this beautiful lobes up the top, and the backs of the leaves have this beautiful like maroon color to it, like reddy maroon color, and it's just climbing up. And it's just becoming such a monster. It's getting really nice and thick on the base here. It's looking really nice and sturdy. However, this is not a moss pole that I created. This is like a cocoa coir pole that I purchased from Bunnings. And I will say it's a lot harder to keep moist all the time. It dries out really quickly. So I wouldn't say any of the roots are like really attaching to the pole, which would be nice if they did, because then the foliage could get a lot more mature. But right now it's just kind of acting as a support so it can grow upright, and I'm okay with that. I mean, maybe later on I will change it to a moss pole, but I'm not in any rush. But this is the new growth point here. It is getting so large, so in charge. You can see this is the newest leaf. It's getting a really nice mature shape to it. Look at those lobes. And I just love the transition from these teeny tiny leaves here to having those beautiful lobes. I just really love seeing the difference between an immature leaf and a mature leaf. It just makes you feel so proud and like you're doing a really good job at being a plant parent. So if you need some motivation to keep going with your plants, I would suggest a Philodendron Mexicanum. I think they're quite underrated, to be honest. I don't really see many people talking about them. To be honest, I don't see them in like your big box stores or your plant nurseries, but I got this for so cheap. I think the plant was like $10, $20 or something like that, and it is growing really, really nicely. I'm so in love with this. And unfortunately, I see some spider mites on it here, so I'm gonna have to treat that as well after this video. but you know, no spider mat damage, so you can really see how resilient this plant is. So this is definitely a plant that has deserved its spot in this spotlight plant video. Alright guys, so for this next plant, I actually brought you guys outside so you can see it. It is a little bit too tall for me to like pick it up and show you. So this is my gorgeous Philodendron gigas. I will say that the cat has tried to swat at it a lot. So Tofu's little cat tree lives right next to it, and then we have the Philodendron gigas here. So there is a little bit of rips and broken leaves a little bit from the damage from his claws, but that is okay. He is just a kitten and he's learning, and it is still growing really nicely. So this one is just a absolutely gorgeous velvety philodendron. Something about these velvet leaves, it's just so stunning. It is actually a really quick grower, I found. So there is actually 2 different plants in this pot. I started off with one plant that had about 3 leaves, and then I ended up propagating it to make it just look a little bit more bushy. So we have one vine growing here, and then we have another vine that is just growing up the back. That is the longer vine there. And I am absolutely in love with this plant. I will say it just grows and grows so quickly. I haven't had much problems with it. I think once it reaches the top of the moss pole, I will give it a little bit of a chop and maybe propagate it again so that we can have a nice full plant. Hello, Tofu. This is Tofu. If you haven't seen one of my latest videos, I did introduce Tofu because I found this little street kitty and I love him. But yeah, he's a bit of a menace with my plants. He doesn't eat them, but he does like to kick the soil around and break the leaves. So, you know, there have been a few different casualties, but you know, we love him anyway because he is so beautiful. But anyway, back to the plant. This is absolutely a stunner. And surprisingly, in Australia, people are starting to find them at Bunnings. Like, isn't that crazy? I think I purchased this plant for like $200 or something a while back, and now you can get them at Bunnings for like 50 bucks. So if you haven't got a gigas yet, go get a gigas because it is absolutely beautiful. It has that melanochrysum kind of vibe to it, but for me, I find it so much easier. My melanochrysum is actually a bit of a nightmare to take care of. I have not been able to really take care of it very well. So if you're like me and you struggle with that one, then definitely hit up your stores and get this guy. Alright guys, so those are all the plants that I'm absolutely loving at the moment. Of course I love like all my plants, but these are the ones that I just chose for this video. If you enjoyed this video, then definitely hit the thumbs up, and if you haven't already, then hit subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Alright, bye!